Welcome back to Switch to Linux. It's another Friday night news segment. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about some security. Well, anybody uses TimeHop? I've never heard of TimeHop, but apparently it's some app that's fairly big. They experienced a network intrusion. Great. Euphemisms and hacking now. How about they experienced a hack? Let's not sugarcoat this, shall we? And that led to a breach of some of your data. Yeah, it led to a breach of every bit of your data that wasn't your social media posts. And these guys have demonstrated that they are incompetent with security. Let's read their press release, shall we? All right, so we'd like to unequivocally apologize to... Oh boy, there go the PR people. They're talking again. We'd like to unequivocally apologize to our users for this incident. We are committed to transparency about the incident, and the document is part of our providing our users and partners with information they need to understand what happened, what we did and how we did it, and what we were working on to ensure it never happens again. All right, so here's kind of the outline. They have a full timeline here. Let me open that up in case this is missing some of those key parts. Okay, so some data was breached. Names, email addresses, dates of birth, genders of users, country codes, some phone numbers. We previously reported email addresses, phone numbers, and names. This affects 21 million users. No private or direct messages, financial data, or social media, photo content, or TimeHop data, including streaks, were affected. Okay, so there's some that was not affected. None of your memories were accessed. Dude, you shared it on social media. That's the least of my concerns. All right, literally. All right, these new types of data are not part of a second breach. The incident announced is what we had suffered to date. The new information result of closer examine of forensics and logs. So here is here is their information type of personal data: phone number, email, name, email, phone number, date of birth, 3.3 million records, and 174 number of GDPR records. Great. Name, email, phone, name, email address, date of birth, name and email address, name, phone number, total name, email address total, gender designation total. Oh man, they know for sparkly unicorns. Oh Lord. All right. So they identified the breach July 5th. Let's see if they have the whole timeline here. All right, let me see the timeline. Is the timeline listed? Okay. This is why I say they're incompetent. December 19th, an employee's credentials were used to log into the cloud environment. It was from the Netherlands. And what they did with that is they created a administrative username. Okay? So they did reconnaissance. All right, that's kind of what they did. So they log in here, they create their own. Okay, there was, since December until this was discovered in July, there was another administrative account created that nobody noticed, nobody said anything about, nobody did anything about. And it just kind of hung around there. And then for the next several months, people keep on logging in under this unknown random user administrative account and getting in and start looking at things. The legitimate employee legitimately created a users table in a database in preparation for migration, but is not populated with data. To be clear, this time users table contained no data. All right, so the unauthorized user logs in on 3:30 and does even more reconnaissance. The user table. How much you want to bet that this is actually that same employee who's gone rogue? Is it convenient that on the 27th, this new database table was created, and on the 30th, this unknown administrative account logged in? A couple days later, the employee legitimately migrated user data into the database, generating personally identifiable information and data that would become the target of upcoming attack. Until this date, 4/4/18, there was no personally identifiable information in the environment accessible by the attacker. While some may have existed in an ephemeral cache environment, access logs examined to date indicate the hacker never attempted to view the data in the cache. And then a month and a half or so later, the unauthorized user logs in again, does some final reconnaissance of the user database table. The attacker then discovers the user data, including personally identifiable information. 7.4, they get in there and begins to restore an existing snapshot of the database containing the data called reusers. Continually checks alarms and monitors while the restore is processing. Restoration of snapshot is taken around 30 minutes, and the unauthorized person spun down the restoration process. This sounds like a person who's an employee. My money is on the actual employee who's legitimate, also created a non-legitimate using a VPN or something. Massive spike in database reads in the user production cluster is reported. Time hop engineer discovers that password has been changed. So then this is about the time when unauthorized user logs in using the API access key on the employee's account. Oh boy, this is looking so bad for this employee. Because it's like AWS. You have to have the password logins and you have to have the API keys to access it. Actually, on AWS and EC2 Cloud, you don't use passwords for an EC2. You only have to have the security token. All right. So here is when they start to notify everybody about it. And so, yeah, that's kind of bad. So what are they doing about it? Really nothing. Yeah, all that kind of stuff's out there. So, yay. Phone number security. If you use a phone number for login, contrary to what I would ever tell you to do, then TimeHop would have your phone number. It is recommended that you take additional security precautions with your cellular provider to ensure your number cannot be ported. If AT&T, Verizon, or Sprint is your provider, this is accomplished by adding a PIN to your account. If you have T-Mobile as your provider, call 611 for your mobile device or 1-800-937-8997 and ask the customer care representative to assist you with limiting portability of your number. All right. Oh, boy. So, yeah, I don't know what TimeHop... I mean, it's just a silly little app that'll allow you to post things that you did a few years ago. All this for that. And 21 million people had accounts, at least. So this is kind of where our title comes from. Tech support scammers seem to know everything about Dell computers, and they've known this for about 2 years. So it's raised these questions. Has Dell had a data breach that either they're not telling anybody about, or that they don't even know about themselves? Because what's happening is, this isn't like you land on a web page, you get the annoying thing to call the scammer. It's not the scam where they'll call you basically fishing for information because they found a phone number somewhere. You know, where Charles from Microsoft Technical Support will call you on the phone and insist that, that they've identified a problem with your computer. This is the people they have full names. They have serial numbers. They have service tags of your computer. They have all sorts of information about these people, meaning it's a greater chance of it being a greater chance of it being a hack. So Dell is saying, we don't know of any breach. So it kind of leads you to believe, I don't know, maybe not. So it's one of a couple of problems. One of those problems is it could be rogue companies with their third-party producers, which happens all the time. So the first book that I wrote, which is called Testing and Temptations, was published by Westbow Press. Whoa, my green screen went crazy. It's written by Westbow Press. Well, Westbow Press is a self-publishing division of Thomas Nelson and now, unfortunately, Zondervan, which is why I'm pulling it from that publisher and producing it under my own publishing name. But the self-publishing divisions under Westbow are actually another outsource from a conglomerate called Author Solutions. And Author Solutions does a whole lot of outsourcing for a ton of different publishing companies to Filipino work in the Philippines. Well, one of those rogue Philippine employees basically stole all of their user contacts and are constantly using it. About every 6 or so months, they're harvesting that database, and anybody that's ever worked with any company like these, then what happened is they will have your information and they are fishing to get new publishers, or saying, port your book over to us and we'll do better. It's basically the same thing. So either they had a legitimate employee walk away stealing all the data, or they had a data breach. It's the only thing that explains what's going on over here with Dell. And after 2 years, it's still happening. So I have a lot of Dell computers. I've never had this happen. Why? Well, very simple. I don't register my computers when I buy them. And honestly, neither should you. You should not be registering your computers. All that is giving a company a whole lot of data that they harvest in their database, waiting for a hacker to get in and steal. And despite having a few different Dell computers, I've never given them any of that information, and therefore I've never had this type of issue, leading me once again to believe this is definitely something on Dell's system. They're not really admitting to it. And they're kind of trying to downplay that. They're even saying, oh, this is part of an industry-wide scam, tech support scam. It's not. It's targeted. It is specifically targeted. People have your phone number. They have your full name. They have the serial number on your computer, which you can verify. They have the service tag of your computer. They have your legitimate email addresses. They have everything. Moral of the story, don't register products that you don't have to. And if a product has to be registered to use, I'd highly encourage you to send it back. Stolen certificates from D-Link were used to sign password-stealing malware. So it was actually D-Link, which is a bigger company, and there was another company. They just say another Taiwanese company. I forget the name of the other one. But it's basically two different companies. Their information was hacked and their code signing certificates were compromised. And basically this affected some models of routers, and it affected IP cameras and a few other devices. So now what happens is we're starting to see in the wild software that is actually signed with D-Link's software signing, which is kind of funny. And their response to this is the most hilarious thing ever. They're like, well, we're working on a patch. In the meantime, this is great, down here. In the meantime, until the D-Link firmware is issued, the company's support announcement is advising people who want to use browsers to view their affected cameras to temporarily ignore the certificate revocation warnings. Oh, yes. Ignore the warnings for the hacked software. Way to go, D-Link. That is the stupidest advice. Ars Technica even says this is bad advice that could actually be abused by the malware operators, and users should disregard it. So if you have a D-Link item and you're getting that warning, just turn the thing off until you can get the firmware patched. Wow. Of course, on to the amazing new release in iOS that is supposed to completely disable the USB port, the USB restricted mode. It took these guys all of a data to crack it. Basically, any device that is an official, genuine Apple device, you can plug into the phone, and it's going to constantly reset the timer. So, yeah, this thing doesn't actually do anything, because law enforcement can just buy one of these little dongles. The cheapest thing that they found that works is like $2.50. You can just buy a bag of the $2.50 devices. Oh, look, it's an iPhone found at the crime scene. Plug in the device, leave it sit there, and it's fine. It'll never go into USB locking mode. If it's already been in USB locking mode, that little device will unlock it for you. Yay! I'm sure that's going to be solved eventually. So that's that. Well, there's more security news. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. I hope you've enjoyed this video from Switched to Linux. If you'd like to help support the channel, check out the links at the top. There is another video over here. You can check out our Patreon page down here. And you can check out shop.switchtolinux.com for information on a t-shirt like this or some other designs. Thanks for watching, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.